Hey guys, Alon here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Alon. Today I'm actually doing a reading wrap up for the first half of 2026. And this is also my first reading wrap up that I'm doing with my Kindle. And normally, like when I was doing my reading wrap ups before, I would have a stack of books. This time it's just me and my twin. We locked in. It's just us today. So I'm actually just going to go through the books that I read this year on my Kindle and we'll kind of just discuss them and we'll go from there. Now, I'll be honest, my memory is very bad. A lot of these books I don't remember a lot of, but I do remember, of course, if I liked it or not, or if I'd recommend it. So we'll go ahead and get started with the first book. So the first book I read this year is His and Hers by Alice Feeney, which if you don't know, His and Hers is actually a Netflix series that came out earlier this year, and I read it because I wanted to read the book and then watch the series. And so just a quick summary, if you don't know, His and Hers is about this reporter who is called to the crime scene of this murder of this woman, and the lead investigator on the crime is like her ex-boyfriend. And so basically the story is like about them trying to solve who murdered this woman, and also them kind of going through their past, if you will, without giving much information. See, on Goodreads, I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I do remember really liking the book. I remember thinking that, of course, the series wasn't as good as the book, but I thought the series was actually pretty decent compared to like other series book adaptations. I thought this one was actually pretty good and pretty accurate. I think Alice Feeney is just really good at like thrillers and really good at like throwing like a really good last minute plot twist that really just like makes you stare at the wall. And I know for sure I remember this plot twist in this book had me like, oh, okay, Alice, I see what you did there. So the next book I read was The Mad Wife by Megan Church. This book is about a housewife. Her name is Lulu, and she has a son, and she also is pregnant or has a daughter. I can't remember. I think she gave birth in the middle of the book. So she was pregnant, and then she gave birth to a daughter. And it's basically about her life living in this neighborhood. In her mind, like the house across the street from her is her house, that's hers. And so when someone moves into this house across the street, naturally she becomes obsessed with them. So we kind of go through Lulu's like life, or I think it's actually a couple years. She has like this really bad postpartum depression after she gives birth. And that's really what it was. It wasn't revealed into the end, and I hate to kind of like give up that piece of it, but that's essentially what it was. It was about a woman having a really bad postpartum depression moment. And like, I really felt bad for her because like, there were so many signs when you like read the end of the book. There were so many signs that she needed help and she needed more support. And like her husband was like, oh, I know exactly what you need, girl. I got you. I know you're struggling. Let me get you a dishwasher. And she was like, he just doesn't get it. And so I think it really shows the importance of like women having community and having genuine friendships, because like reading this book, like she was surrounded by so many different women, but like literally nobody had her best interest. Nobody was really like rooting for her, and nobody really saw the signs that she was going through it. So I definitely recommend this book. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, but a lot of like maternal books have been calling to me and I've been really enjoying them. So I definitely recommend The Mad Wife though. I think it explores postpartum depression in a way that I've never seen it, especially with it being based in like the 60s. I think it has a really good take on it, and I can only imagine going through like postpartum depression back then when that wasn't something women talked about at all. That wasn't a thing back then. The next book I read was These Heathens by McKenzie or Maya McKenzie, not sure. So this book was also about pregnancy. It's about this young girl who lived in like a small town in Georgia or Alabama, and she winds up pregnant. And so she's young, so she's like, I need to get an abortion. I can't have this kid. And so she tells the one teacher who she feels like she can really trust. And the teacher's like, okay, girl, that's cool. We're going to go to Atlanta and you're going to get an abortion. So this is during like the civil rights era. So while she's going there to get the abortion, she's supposed to go for like a day or two. But something happens with the doctors, and so she can't get the abortion. So she has to stay a bit longer than she expected. But while she's there, she runs into like all of these civil rights leaders. What I did not like about this book is that like, particularly what it was. I know I'm like, I can't get it out, but like, okay, so she's going to get this abortion, right? She went through so many different hurdles of like trying to get the abortion, and it kept falling through or whatever. Coretta Scott King was a person in this book who recommended her to the doctor who performed the abortion. My thing is like, I understand and I love that we're trying to make Coretta Scott King this very progressive woman who was for that. And don't get me wrong, I am 1000% for abortion. I'm very pro-choice. Like, how do we know that Coretta Scott King was like pro-abortion? Like, what if she was anti-abortion? Like, we don't know that. So to me, it felt a bit, I don't want to say disrespectful, but it just felt a bit odd to kind of like give her that. And maybe I'm thinking too much into it. But I thought it was just a bit weird. So on Goodreads, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Like, I didn't think it was bad. I enjoyed it, especially with them going to Atlanta. I think in this book, particularly going to Atlanta for the main character was just like a life-changing thing because, you know, she experienced so much. I mean, she experienced, for one, like Black people fighting against the rights, the civil rights era. But then she also experienced like gay people and like their light in the first time, and like she had a complete culture shock. So I thought it was pretty good, and I like what the author did, just the way she went about certain things was just kind of odd. So yeah. The next book I read was Cutthroat by Octavia Grant, and this is actually my first Octavia Grant book. I know all the girlies on Book Talk, Booktube, love them some Octavia Grant. So like, I really wanted to read this book because I heard a lot about it in her. And I will be honest, I don't remember a lot of this book because I don't know why, but I don't remember a lot of it. I know for sure that there's a main character. The main character finds out her husband is cheating and she does some crazy shit. Okay. I do remember that. I do remember like a couple of things that she did. And I was like, this girl is crazy. She's crazy. But like, I was gonna say I get it, but like I don't. Cause like me personally, I think after a while I probably would have gave up. Like he would have had it. We would have just got a divorce. But I think in terms of drama, Octavia, she knows what she's doing. I remember reading this book and just thinking like, this is basically a Tubi movie. Like this is a good ghetto Tubi movie. On Goodreads, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know why I gave it a 4 as opposed to a 5. I didn't hate the book. I thought it was pretty good for what it was. The next book I read was Kin by Tayari Jones. And if you know anything about me, you know that Tayari Jones is one of my favorite authors next to Tiffany D. Jackson. I love them both. And yeah, so this is Tayari's latest book. Kin is about 2 young girls who grew up essentially like sisters, and they're both kind of like motherless. And so they grew up being raised by like family members. And it basically tells the story of them growing up. And then once they're like out of high school, them going their separate ways. So one decides to go to Spelman. The other decides to be with her man. She follows her man. They go to Memphis. And we see how they both navigate like being in love, navigating their sexuality, as well as just coming into womanhood. And in true Tayari fashion, we get these letters back and forth. That's probably one of my favorite things about her. I think if not all, majority of her books have the letters. And I think Tayari is just really good at that because I feel like it's a really great way to pass time while also keeping the reader updated. So like we're doing time jumps of like weeks or months or so, but like we still know what's going on with the characters because they letting their friend know what's going on in their life. So I love it. 5 out of 5 stars, 1000%. Tayari, she has not failed me yet. Now the ending, I don't know. So the ending was a bit rough for me because I didn't think it had to end like that. I'll be honest. I thought that was a bit dramatic, but like, okay, whatever. The next book I read was Judge Stone by James Patterson. And I also did the audiobook. So I heard it from Viola Davis. And like, honestly, if you're gonna read this book, I'd say you definitely need to do both. The audiobook is a must because Viola Davis, oh, she tore this book down. It made me not even want to read the book because she narrated the book so well. And I thought, who better to be Judge Stone than Viola Davis? So this book is basically about this judge named Judge Stone. She's a judge in like Alabama. And basically there's this case that happens. There's something that happens in the city. I won't say what, but Judge Stone is responsible for like the verdict of the case. And the people are mad because they're like, a Black judge does not need to be the one who decides the verdict of this case. This should go to somebody else. And so we deal with a moral issue. Like, what happened in the book that caused this whole big case. Half of the town feels this way, the other half of the town feels this way. And so like there's like a lot of drama between the town because of their split views. And then we also get drama with like white people who live in adjacent areas who feel like, oh, well, this should go to a white judge. He should be the one that's determining the fate of this person because whatever XYZ, Judge Stone isn't qualified enough for it. And then there's just so much to go on with like the background characters who are involved in this case. It's just so much. It's so good. I really recommend doing the audiobook though. Like I'm telling you, Viola Davis, she tore that up. She tore that up. And it's so stupid because like when I was initially buying the book on my Kindle, for whatever reason, I thought Viola Davis was like half, like she co-wrote some of this. I don't know why. I don't know why. So imagine my surprise when I go and listen to the audiobook and I'm like, oh, Auntie is the judge. 5 out of 5 stars. This was actually my first James Patterson book. So like I really went in cold, not knowing what his game was about, what he was about, but I really enjoyed this book. Now I'm not like a courtroom thriller girly. So like, I don't know if I'll be returning to his books. I do know he is like a true thriller author, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the future holds with me and James Patterson. The next book I read was A Devil Went Down in Georgia. It's about the life and murder of Lita McClinton. Girl, let's start off by saying this is the first nonfiction book I've read in a very, 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 very long time. Girl, this book was so freaking good and it really left me wanting more. And I really do think I might be dabbling into more nonfiction books because this was written so well. So this is about a Black woman. Her name is Lita McClinton. Lita is this Black socialite in Atlanta. She's like an it girl, basically. Like her parents are in like the political scene in Atlanta. They're like adjacent to like some like the mayor and like other people in Atlanta. And this is like in the 80s, the 70s and 80s of Atlanta. So you got to think this is when Atlanta is kind of becoming like the Black Mecca that it is. And so she's an it girl. She goes to Spelman and then she ends up working at Phipps. But like everybody knows her in the scene because like she's just that girl. So she meets this rich white guy. Girl, and it talks about their marriage. We learn about their marriage. We learn about him as a person. He's basically like a crook, but like he becomes rich because we won't talk about the details behind how he inherited this business, but he inherits this business from his uncle. Uncle dies and he's a millionaire all of a sudden. And girl, Lita got her a rich man, but then Lita is murdered. Lita's murdered in her house in Atlanta in Buckhead. And it basically just talks about her murder, her life, her murder, and the court case that surrounded it, and just everything. Girl, this book was so freaking good. Like I remember I would be watching TikToks about Lita. I would be watching, like the little documentaries on YouTube about her because the case was so interesting to me. And like, I like true crime. Like I'm a true crime girly and I had never, ever heard of this story before ever. So I naturally was just a bit obsessed for a couple days. It is so good though. It is so, so good. If you don't read any book that I'm telling you to read, please think about reading the story of Lita McClinton. It is so good. And for sure, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. Like I said, it really made me want to get into more nonfiction stuff. So I definitely see myself probably reading something very similar before the year is out. The next book I read was Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke. Girl. Okay, let's start with the summary real quick. So Yesteryear is about this influencer. Her name is Natalie, right? She got all these kids and she is like a influencer, trad wife, MAGA, Christian, everything you can think of that falls under that bubble. It is her. She is so insufferable too. Like, I don't really think she likes the kids like that, but like she got it going on. A lot of people feel like Natalie's character was based off of like a ballerina farm type influencer, like a Nara Smith, if you will. All I'm gonna say is Natalie woke up and it was like the 1800s and she's like trying to figure out how the heck did I get here? If these are my kids, where do they come from? Because now she got like a set of kids that she just doesn't know. Her husband looked like her husband, but like he is a bit different. And so it's her trying to figure out, how did I get here? Who are these people? And like can I go back home, basically. And then while she's in the 1800s, we kind of get a little backstory of her life, backstory of her relationship with her husband, her children, and girl, is all I'm gonna say. Claire, whoever, the author, I can't even think of her name. Probably one of my favorite reads that I've read in a really long time when we think about just like, you did that, girl. Like, she ate that up. I'm not gonna lie, she ate that up. And it's so many mixed reviews about it. Some people hate the book and they hated Natalie, the main character, so much that they're like, oh, I can't read this. Oh, this is not a good book. I think that was the point of the book. Like, I think the author wanted you to hate the main character so much that like you're almost disgusted where you don't want to read it. But like, I think that's what makes it so good and so genius. Probably the worst main character I've ever read in my life. But like, I couldn't get enough. Like, I needed more. And I feel like the way the book ended, the plot twist of this book, like, I thought of it though, but I was like, that's so far-fetched. I was like, why no? And it was true. And I was like, oh wait, no, she ate. So I definitely gave Yesteryear a 5 out of 5 stars. It's one of those books that I 1000% hate that I read already. I wish this was something I wrote in my book club, and maybe it's not too late to read, but like, I feel like I've already read it, so like the novelty of it has kind of worn off. But man, I was like on TikTok like, oh, I gotta talk to somebody about this book, because girl, the next book I read was A Little Life by, I'm not gonna butcher her name, by her. So A Little Life is about 4 friends. They live in New York, and it basically just tells the story of their lives. We meet them while they're like, I think like first year out of college, and we go all the way up through the end of their life, if you will. And yeah, so it's really surrounding this main character, Jude, but we do explore all of the other characters, their lives, and how their relationships with Jude or with things that impact their lives impact their relationship with Jude. And girl, that's all I'm gonna say. I know that was a lot, and I know that was nothing, but like, whew, it is something, girl. It is really something. This is probably the longest book that I've ever read in my life. I did the audiobook, and I also did the book on my Kindle, of course, and it took me about 3 weeks to read it. 3 weeks. I definitely think this is one of those books to where you need to read the trigger warnings and decide if you're going to read it for yourself before you just go in cold, because I didn't read the trigger warnings. I never do. I'm not someone who, I don't know. I like to go in cold with books anyways. And things don't really bother me like that. I gave this book, I think I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I think it explores why it is important to have really good friends. So if you read A Little Life and you have thoughts, comment them down below. DM me on Instagram, on TikTok, girl. Let's talk about it, because girl, she knows she broke me with this book. Like, I used to like see comments where people are like, oh, I think about Jude every day. Oh, I think about Jude every day. And I do think about Jude every day, because I think about all the things that he went through, all the like random like abuse, and like personally, like, I wanted to like DM the author and be like, who hurt you, and why did you have this one character suffer so much? Because though I understand, like, yeah, as people we go through things, yeah, as people we do suffer through things, and yeah, sometimes shit just doesn't go our way, but like, he did not need to go through all those things. Like, he did not come out a better person at the end of that. The final book I read was Best Offer Wins by Marcia Cascino. Girl. This one right here, oh my god. So this book is about this girl named Margot. She's married to this man named Ian, and she like really wants to get pregnant, but just as much as she wants to get pregnant, she also wants to have like this dream house in this beautiful neighborhood, and like in this community, we'll say. She wants to have her dream house in this beautiful community, but like, she just cannot get the house. And it's like every time she gets really close to getting the house, like something falls through, and like she just doesn't have it. And so they've been searching for a house for a year, and like for whatever reason it doesn't pan out. Margot finds out that this house in her dream neighborhood is going on sale, and she does everything in her mind that she can think of to get this house. everything. You like the things that she did to get this house. Like, I feel like after like the first thing, like the way she started off with it was already like, oh, you're really crazy. You will do anything. Like, and then like the thing that killed me about this book was like she did all of that, and like I feel like towards the end of the book, like she was not fulfilled. Like I feel like she did so much and like she got what she wanted, but like at what cost? Like, you know? So all I'm gonna say is, Marissa, girl, you did that. You really did that. I don't know if this was like inspired by something, you know, what made you think about this, but I thought the concept was really crazy. And I enjoyed reading about Margot's crazy ass. Honestly, I love an unhinged main character, and I think Margot was like the unhinged main character. That is my reading wrap up, or my halfway reading wrap up of 2026. Of course, I plan to do another video at the end of the year, kind of going through the rest of the books that I read. And maybe we'll do like a top 10, top 7, 12 books of the year. If you watch this video, comment down below, tell me how you like it, or hopefully you did like it. I mean, I don't know. Don't tell me you didn't like it. If you read any of these books, also let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.